Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is Professor Vidyasagar Mugi. In this particular session, I'll be discussing on the solved question paper of year 2011 with complete explanation of the questions and also what are the possible questions that you may come across related to the same concepts. I'll be discussing in detail. So this is a part 1 of the video, so hope you like this video. If you do like this video, please share with your friends, like this video and hit the subscribe button harder and motivate me to do more such videos for you people. Thank you. The first question is, total strain energy stored in a body is known as. So first question is asked, total strain energy stored in the body is known as. So answer for this is resilience. So answer for this is resilience. So resilience stands for the total stored energy stored in the body. So whereas proof resilience is the maximum energy absorbing capacity of the material in the elastic region, right? So proof resilience is maximum energy absorbing capacity of material in the elastic region, and it is given by a mathematical formula which is half P into delta. Whereas modulus of resilience is the ratio of proof resilience by volume, which is given by sigma square by 2 into Young's modulus. So sigma stands for stress and E stands for Young's modulus. So all these things are within the elastic region. All these are within the elastic region. And potential energy, as you all know, is energy held by an object because of its position relative to the other object. So correct answer for first is resilience. Next question. So next question is, for a simply supported beam subjected to central point load, the given options, out of the given options, the correct answer is the curvature increases towards the midspan. Now if you see the figure here, if you see the figure, he said a simply supported beam subjected to central point load. So central point load, because of this, the curvature is increasing towards the center. The curvature is increasing towards the midspan. So the correct option for this is curvature increases towards the midspan. So you can follow the different standard conditions for the loading cases. The image is given, which you can see on your screen. Moving on to the next question. So next question is, early strength gain in cement is caused by. So early strength gain in cement is caused by. So the correct answer from the given option is tricalcium silicate. It is tricalcium silicate, right? The given answer is tricalcium silicate and the formula is C3S. Okay, so we'll have the other questions which can be asked based on this is, so these are the 4 compounds which are essential in cement. So these are called as Bogues compound. Bogues compounds. They are called as Bogues compounds. So those are tricalcium silicate, dicalcium silicate, tricalcium aluminate, tetracalcium aluminoferrate. So the chemical formulas are C3S, C2S, C3A, C4AF, right? So they may ask you questions related to these Bogues compounds. They are also, you may also come across questions on tricalcium silicate is also called as, it is called as halite. Dicalcium silicate is called as belite. Tricalcium aluminate is called as cellite, and tetracalcium aluminoferrate is called as phthalate. So you arrange them in this order so that it will be A, B, C and F in the ascending orders. So you can remember them easily. They may also ask you questions on what is the composition of those material, what percent. So tricalcium silicate is 54%, dicalcium silicate is 17%, tricalcium aluminate is 11% and tetracalcium aluminoferrate is 9%. You may also get questions related to the strength. Which element gives strength at what stages? So now the same question is here. So early strength gain is asked. So early strength gain responsible compound is the tricalcium silicate, earlier strength. Whereas dicalcium silicate, it gives strength at the latter stage, that is after 7 days. Tricalcium aluminate, it gives strength in the initial stage, that is at the mixing stage itself. Immediately when it is casted, the strength responsible is because of tricalcium aluminate. So these are the different questions which you may people get based on the box compounds. Moving on to next question. The next question reads, flow curve is drawn from test data of. So there are different options given. So from those options, the correct answer is, it is flow curve is drawn for the liquid limit test. So in liquid limit test, we draw the curve for water content versus the number of blows, right? So the liquid limit obtained is equal to the water content at 25 blows. This is also very important. Liquid limit obtained is equal to what? Water content at 25 blows, right? So this line is called as flow line. This line is called as flow line and it is used in liquid limit test, right? Okay, next question. So next question is again related to the geotechnical. So the question reads, the water content of a soil which represents the boundary between plastic and liquid state is known as. So the correct answer for the fifth question is liquid limit, right? So you can see the graph here. So liquid, plastic, semi-solid and solid. So the boundary which is between liquid and plastic is called as what? WL, which is liquid limit. Boundary between semi-solid and plastic is called as plastic limit. Solid and semi-solid is called as shrinkage limit, right? So you may also arrive with different questions related to these compounds. So these limits are called as Atterberg's limit. So Atterberg limits are very important and you may get questions based on this. They may ask you simple questions on finding what is the plasticity index, giving you what is value of liquid limit and plastic limit. So these are the different relations which you can go through. So this is plasticity index, which is WL minus WP, liquid limit minus plastic limit. This is shrinkage index, which is plastic limit minus shrinkage limit. This is toughness index, which is plastic limit divided by flow curve. So IF is nothing but the flow curve, which is given by W2 minus W1 divided by log 10 N1 by N2. Then this is consistency index, which is given by liquid limit minus natural water content divided by plasticity index. And this is liquidity index, which is given by natural water content minus plastic limit divided by plasticity index. So these are the different questions which you may get. So these are important. So you can have a note of them. Moving on to next question. So the next question is, swelling potential of soil is indicated by. So out of the given options, the correct answer is, it is activity of soil. So activity of soil is defined as the ratio of plasticity index to the fraction of clay content. fraction of clay content or clay soil, you can say. So plasticity index divided by fraction of clay soil. So which is given by a relation A is equal to IP divided by C. So activity of soil is, it indicates the swelling potential of the soil. So the swelling potential is more dominant in case of a soil containing a clay mineral called as montmorillonite. You may also get a question on this montmorillonite, which has an activity number of A greater than 4. So we have a different parameters for defining what is activity of soil. So if A is less than 0.75, it is called as inactive stage. If A is equal to 0.75 to 1.25, then it is normal. And if A is greater than 1.25, it is called as active. So which indicates the swelling potential. So one is swelling potential is activity of soil, so which is IP by C. So these are the different questions you may get based on this concept. So the other options what are given in the question. So permeability of soil. So permeability of soil is what? It is a property of soil which allows passage of fluid, whereas compressibility of soil is property due to which reduction in volume occurs under compression. Whereas sensitivity of soil is what? It indicates weakening of soil due to remolding. It indicates the weakening of soil due to remolding, whereas sensitivity is given as the shear strength of the undisturbed soil to the shear strength of remolded soil is what is the sensitivity. Once again I'll repeat. So sensitivity is defined as shear strength in undisturbed condition to the shear strength in remolded condition will give you the sensitivity of soil. Sensitivity refers to weakening, whereas activity refers to swelling. Don't get confused with this. So one more thing you have to study here is something called as thixotropy. So what is thixotropy? Okay, I hope you understood this. Moving on to the next question. Okay, so the next question reads, at a junction of hydraulic grade line of 3 pipes is above the elevation of Q and R and below reservoir P, then the direction of P will be, so from the option the correct answer is, it is from P to Q and R. It is from P to Q and R. So answer is from P to Q and R. So hydraulic gradient line means what? Hydraulic gradient line refers to the profile of water flowing in an open channel or pipe flowing partially full. So this is an arbitrary datum. So Z1 represents the height with respect to the arbitrary datum. So this P1 by gamma refers to the piezometric head or pressure head, and V1 square by 2G refers to the velocity head. So this line is the profile or flow of the water, which is termed as hydraulic gradient line, and this is called as total energy line. Now if you see from the question, so Q and R are having a gradient line and also P. So Q and R are below reservoir P. Right, so hydraulic gradient line of P is above Q and R means what? Flow should occur from P to Q and R. So answer is P to Q and R. Hope you followed this. Moving on to the next question. So the next question reads, continuity equation deals with the law of conservation of, so there are 4 different options. Out of the given option, it is, the correct answer is mass. So continuity equation deals with law of conservation of mass. Now if you consider the continuity equation, so for compressible fluid, the different questions what may arise, they may give you the equation and they may ask you what is this equation related to. So for compressible fluid, we consider the density of the fluid into account. So dou by dou x into rho u plus dou by dou I into rho V plus dou by dou Z into rho W plus dou rho by dou T. This is equal to what? 0. So if the same is with respect to incompressible fluid, so incompressible fluid density is neglected, so dou U by dou X plus dou V by dou I plus dou W by dou Z is equal to 0. So continuity equation deals with what? Law of conservation of mass. So you may also get question with respect to what? Law of conservation of energy. So when the same question is asked with respect to law of conservation of energy, then the correct answer for that is Bernoulli's equation. So Bernoulli's equation deals with law of conservation of energy, and Bernoulli's equation is given by P by gamma plus V square by 2G plus Z is equal to constant. I want you people to stress out more on this because you'll definitely get questions on Bernoulli's theorem and continuity equation. So principle of conservation of energy, its application is very important. So its application is very important because you will have to deal with the coefficient of discharge related to different discharge measuring devices like venturimeter, orifice, pitot tube. So there are different applications of conservation of energy. So please go through the applications of this. Very important. You will surely get questions related to this. So I want you people to stress more on the applications of Bernoulli's theorem. So moving on to next question. So the next question is, which of the following is an impulse turbine? So which of the following is an impulse turbine out of given? So the correct answer is Pelton turbine, or it is also called as Pelton wheel. So Pelton turbine is the correct answer for question number 9. So a little bit of explanation. You may also get questions related to the other types of turbines. So Pelton wheel, Kaplan turbine, Francis turbine. So Pelton wheel, you may also get which is type of impulse turbine you saw here. They may ask you what is the reaction turbine. So it is Kaplan turbine or Francis turbine, both are reaction turbines. And flow in this is what? Tangential. Flow here is axial flow turbine, and this is inward radial flow turbine for Francis. So head here is maintained at high head. Kaplan turbine requires low head, and Francis turbine require medium head. So Pelton wheel have horizontal shaft, Kaplan turbine have vertical shaft. So these are the different questions which you may arise with respect to the turbines. So here I also want you people to go through what is specific speed of turbines, specific speed of pumps. They may also ask you what is a horsepower. These are the different questions which you may arise. So have a look at this. So I hope you understood this one. Moving on to the next question. The next question is, the points having 0 y coordinate in a Mohr circle of a stress represents. So the correct answer is the principal stress. The correct answer is principal stress. So in principal stress, you have to very much careful about the stress diagram. That is, this is the stress diagram that we represent. So this indicates sigma x, this is sigma x, this is sigma y, this is sigma y, and this is shear stress. So this is shear stress 2 xy and 2 yx, right? So this picture is very important. This diagram is very important. You can solve any problems on compound stresses if you are very much thorough with this part. Please understand this carefully. So always see that some conditions I will tell you. Sigma x is always greater than sigma y. This is the first condition. Second condition to be known here is angle theta, what is shown on the plane. Now if this is a plane, So angle theta is always shown with respect to what? It is always shown with respect to vertical axis. Theta is always with respect to vertical axis, and anti-clockwise is taken as positive. Anti-clockwise is taken as positive. So some more things to discuss on this question is the normal stress is given by sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus sigma x minus sigma y by 2 cos 2 theta plus 2 xy sin 2 theta. So similarly, this is a normal stress, shear stress on normal plane. This is normal stress, and the principal plane, so the stresses on principal plane, that is major stress and minor stress, is given by sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus root of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 whole square plus 2xy square. So this is plus, this is major principal stress. If it is minus, it is minor principal stress. And the maximum shear stress is given by under the root sigma x minus sigma y by 2 whole square plus 2xy square. So for generally for competitive exams, they may not ask you for solving and formulas like such, but you should be knowing these concepts of formulas so that you can easily solve these conditions given. So this diagram will help you sort out what type of condition is given here. So always the Mohr circle is drawn with respect to what? So if this is y-axis with respect to 2 and the x-axis is with respect to sigma. So when the value of sigma x and sigma y are given, I'll not go much in detail here. So if sigma y is absent, tau is absent, depending upon those, what are the conditions of Mohr circles that may arise, that completely depends on the equations. So this is the analytical part, this is the graphical method. So some standard cases which are represented here, you can have a look. So this kind of Mohr circle represents the general tension. This is uniaxial tension, this is general tension, and compression means compression is minus, so we have stress on positive also and negative also. So pure shear, there is no sigma x and sigma y, so it is complete. The origin itself is the midpoint of the circle, so pure stress condition. This question is asked most of the times, so this is very important. This is very important. Then uniaxial compression is like this, general compression is like this. So if you draw one Mohr circle, you practice Mohr circle, you will understand all these cases, and cross check with the analytical part because this is very fun, compound stresses. So I hope you followed this part. So this question is mostly asked many times. So pure shear stress, the origin itself is the midpoint of the circle. Hope you understood this. Moving on to the next question. Okay, so the next question reads, which of the following is a non-recording rain gauge? So out of the given option, Simon's rain gauge is the non-recording type. Simon's rain gauge is the non-recording type, and this is the correct answer for this. So to discuss more on this, so we have two types of rain gauges, that is recording type and non-recording type. So firstly, I'll finish with Simon rain gauge. So Simon rain gauge is commonly used in India, right? So Simon rain gauge is commonly used in India. One more question that they may ask based on Simon rain gauges. So Simon rain gauge is used to measure what? It is used to measure the total depth of precipitation. It is used to measure total depth of precipitation. They may ask you question related to this. So most of times I have also seen that questions on its geometrical parameters are also asked. So this question has been asked too many times, that is, what is the diameter of the Simon's rain gauge? It is 12.7 centimeter is the diameter, and height is 30 centimeter above the ground level. 30 centimeter above the ground level. So Simon rain gauge is a non-recording type of rain gauge whose diameter is 12.7 centimeter and height is 30 centimeter above the ground level. Then coming to the recording type of rain gauge, we have three types. Tipping bucket. So the three options what are given in the question are all recording type of rain gauges except for Simon's. So tipping bucket, also called as telemetric rain gauge, weighing bucket type, natural siphons type, or it is also called as floating type. Now in this, tipping bucket type measures the intensity of rainfall. tipping bucket measures the intensity of rainfall. You may also get questions on this. Tipping bucket is used to measure what? Intensity of rainfall. Similarly, weighing bucket type and natural siphon or floating type measures mass curve of the rainfall. So this is also a question which you may arise. One more thing to discuss here is tipping bucket type is used in mountainous terrains where the areas are inaccessible, right? In heavy rainfall areas, mountainous terrains and areas which are inaccessible, we prefer tipping bucket type of rain gauges. So this is all about this question. So to dig more in this hydrology part, you have to study what are the types of precipitation. Those are direct precipitation, orographic precipitation, cyclonic precipitation, and what causes them is very important. You will also get questions on what are the different types of precipitation and what causes those precipitation to happen. So it is temperature change, pressure difference. So which type of rainfall occurs because of what conditions is also very important questions. I want you people to also look into that. Then talking about hydrology. So hydrology, again, there you have to study unit hydrographs. So also there are some terms like isochrones, isohyetals. So these terms, so why they are used? What is the meaning of isochrones? What is the meaning of isohyets? So this is also asked many times. So the line joining depths of equal rainfall, what are they called as? Line joining same time interval, what they are called as? What is unit hydrograph? You may get questions on those 1 mark questions. So please go through that, right? So I hope I understood this. Moving on to the next question. So the next question reads, cavitation will take place if the pressure of the flowing fluid at any point is. Very important concept. Cavitation will take place if the pressure of the flowing fluid at any point is. The correct answer is less than the vapor pressure of the fluid. Less than the vapor pressure of the fluid. Now, what is vapor pressure is also a question which may be asked. So vapor pressure is when the atmospheric pressure combines with the air molecules, then a vapor pressure is formed, and this vapor pressure in turn forms a airlocks which causes cavitation. So airlocks are formed because of the air particles and difference in the pressure, so which causes airlocks and it causes cavitation. So mathematically, if sigma c is 0, it means what? The cavitation takes place. If sigma c is 0, then P is equal to PV. So P is the atmospheric pressure and this is the absolute pressure. So cavitation number is given by sigma c is equal to P minus PV divided by rho V square by 2. So if sigma c is 0, then cavitation takes place. Now the questions related to cavitations may be, what are the materials used for cavitation resistance? What are the cavitation resistance material? So they are alloys of aluminum, stainless steel and bronze. So one more questions what you have to look about this is where cavitation takes place. Where cavitation takes place. So I'll tell you one point. It takes place at the turbine exit. So likewise, you have to list out what are the different types of what are different conditions where the cavitation takes place. So prepare for this. This is also very important question. Okay, moving on to next. So the next question reads, the sensitivity of the bubble tube can be measured by. The sensitivity of the bubble tube can be sensitivity of the bubble tube can be increased by. So correct answer from the given option is it is by increasing the diameter of the tube. So a little bit of explanation here. So sensitivity depends on what? Means what? What are the factors affecting sensitivity? So the factors affecting sensitivity are, first one is radius of curvature of the internal surface. How does that affect? So larger the radius, greater is the sensitivity. So larger is the radius, greater is the sensitivity. So second factor is the diameter of the bubble tube. That is, larger the diameter, greater is the sensitivity, which is the second point of our answer. See here, sensitivity of the bubble tube can be increased by what? Increasing the diameter. That is what? Larger the diameter, greater the sensitivity. So different, they may ask you questions on different factors. The length of the bubble tube, third factor, that is larger the length, greater is the sensitivity. Similarly, fourth one, viscosity and surface tension of liquid. Lesser the viscosity, more sensitivity. Now meaning of viscosity is what? It is the resistance to flow. Similarly, smoothness of internal surface of tube. That is greater smoothness, more sensitivity. Length of one division, that is greater length of one division, more sensitivity. So these are the factors which are affecting the sensitivity of the bubble tube. So you should know all these factors. So they may ask you any of the factors as a question. So one question they have asked, that is sensitivity of the bubble tube increased by increasing the diameter of the tube. Okay, moving on to next question. So the next question reads, any line which is normal to plumb line at all point is known as. So any line that is normal to the plumb line at all point is known as what? So the correct answer here is, it is called as level line. It is called as level line. So explanation here. So level line is a line that is normal to the direction of gravity by a plumb line at any point. Whereas in level line and horizontal line there is a lot of confusion. But let me clear you the thing here. Level line is a line that is normal to the direction of gravity by a plumb line at any point. Whereas horizontal line is the line that is tangential to the line at particular point and is perpendicular to the direction of gravity. Means horizontal line is for a short distance, but whereas level line is always normal to the direction of gravity. How we'll see here. If this is a plumb line, so level line is parallel to the earth surface like this. If this is the earth surface, so this is always level line is this. So and this is always normal to the plumb line. So that is direction of gravity. Whereas horizontal line, if this is the direction of gravity, plumb line, and this is a horizontal line which is always perpendicular to the direction of gravity. So the correct answer here is what? They have asked which is normal to the plumb line. So correct answer is level line. Okay, hope you followed this. Moving on to the next question. The next question is, an imaginary line lying throughout the surface of a ground and preserving a constant inclination to the horizontal is known as. An imaginary line, so most of them people will judge immediately by just listening to the word imaginary. Don't hurry up here. It's a little bit of tricky. So imaginary line lying throughout the surface of the ground and preserving a constant inclination, he has said. When it comes to inclination, you have to think inclination to the horizontal. So the correct answer here is not contour line, but it is contour gradient. It is contour gradient. So a little bit of explanation on contour gradient. So contour line is what? It is defined as line on a map joining points of equal heights above or below the mean sea level. Right? Lines on a map joining points of equal height above or below the mean sea level. Whereas contour interval is what? It is a vertical distance or difference in elevation between contour lines. Vertical distance or difference in elevation between the contour lines. A little bit of more explanation on contours. The possible questions what you may arise on concepts of contours are based with the characteristics of contours. So the first thing I want to discuss here is, if there are two contour lines of different elevations, say 90 and 91, they cannot cross each other. Suppose if they did, or if they intersect, then one point, if they intersect like this one particular point will be having what? two different elevations. It will be having two different elevations, right? So contour lines of different elevations can unite to form one line only in case of vertical cliff. This is very important. Contour lines of different elevations can unite to form one line only in case of vertical cliffs. So they may also give you the pictorial questions. So here, if the contour lines are very closely placed, means that indicates what? It indicates steep slope. The contour lines are at very closely spaced, then it represents what? Steep slope. If the contour lines are far apart, then it represents what? Gentle slope. If the contour lines are equally spaced, then it represents uniform slope. If the contour lines are straight, parallel and equally spaced, then it represents what? Plane surface. You may get questions on this. Similarly, if a closed contour is having a values increasing in the inward direction, see here 100, 105, 110, 115, means it indicates what? It indicates hill. You may get question on this. Similarly, if the closed contour has the contour value descending towards the inner side, then it represents what? Pond. It represents declination. So it represents pond. Similarly, this concave side towards higher ground indicates the ridge line. So these contour lines, if they are having a concave upper side towards the higher ground, then they indicate ridge line. Similarly, if the convex side towards the higher ground, then they indicate valley line. So you may get questions based on these part. So moving on to the next question. Okay, so the next question is, if the geometric deformation of an axially prismatic members are doubled, the tip deformation. The correct answer for this is, it decreases by a factor of 2. A bar is subjected to an axial tension force, then the elongation is given by delta equal to what? PL upon A. So if the geometric dimensions are doubled, means what happens? The factor is reduced by 2. The factor is reduced by 2. So in this case, you have to be very much thorough with stress, what is strain. Then they may also ask you on elastic constants. Elastic constants is very important, where they will ask you the relation between E is equal to 2G into 1 plus mu, or E is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. So they may give you value of this, what is the Poisson's ratio. Then also they will ask you what is Poisson's ratio, what is the highest value of Poisson's ratio. So we'll be discussing that later, but you have to go through these part. So properties of strength of material is very important, and it happens to be the basic for almost all the structural related subjects. So simple stresses and strains, I want you to stress more on that, where you will get a lot of basic things cleared and will help you to sort out questions related to structures at the application level. Right. So moving on to next question. So the next question reads, the primary compression failure in an RC beam is caused in. So he has asked you, the primary compression failure in RC beam is caused in which type of section? So it occurs in over reinforced section. It occurs in over reinforced section. So we have three types of sections. Those are balanced sections, under reinforced sections, over reinforced section. What is balanced section? So balanced section is one where stress in concrete and steel reaches maximum value at the same time. That means the XU value is equal to what? XU max. Under reinforced section means what? The under reinforced section here in general means the steel required for the section to be balanced is less, provided is less than the required. That is, the steel is less than the required for balanced section. So here failure in steel causes ductile failure, and it gives clear warning before failure. That means in under reinforced section, steel undergoes failure earlier than the concrete. That means the steel starts bending because of its ductile nature, and it starts creating cracks on the beam. It starts creating cracks on the beam, and it will give the clear warning sign before the failure. Here XU is less than XU max. This is also called as primary tension. So if they ask you the question, the primary tension failure occurs in RC beam is caused in, you have to write it is occurring in under reinforced section. But our question is what? He has asked you the primary compression failure in an RC beam is caused in what? It is in over reinforced section. Why? Because steel provided here is more than required. So since steel provided is more, so obviously steel is ductile, and before it fails it gives the warning. But whereas concrete is a brittle material. Concrete is a brittle material. So when the stress are beyond the limiting value, what happens? The concrete fails or crushes because of its brittleness. So the first failure occurs is because of what? Compression failure. Primary compression because concrete is good in compression. So because failure is because of compression means what? Concrete is failing first. So the answer for this is, it is primary compression, that is because of over reinforced section. In over reinforced section concrete fails first, whereas in under reinforced section steel fails first. I hope you understood this. Next question is, the vertical window built in the sloping side of a pitched roof is, sort of the given option, the correct answer is called as dormer window. The correct answer is dormer window. Now what is this dormer window? If you see from this figure, on a sloping roof a vertical projection is brought out, where that window is called as the dormer window. So in the sloped roof, if the vertical window is poking out like this, then that type of window is called as dormer window. So most of them get confused with the skylight and dormer window, right? So dormer window is built vertically with respect to the sloping roof, whereas skylight is parallel to the slope. It is a part of the sloping roof. So the correct answer for this is dormer window. We will discuss about what are the three different options of windows given. So gable window is nothing but it is provided at the gable side of the house. So in sloped roof, these walls are called as the gable walls. So window provided at the gable end are called as the gable windows, right? Similarly, if you see here, this is a sloping roof. So this window is embedded within the roof itself, right? It is also parallel to the roof, so it is called as skylight window. It is called as skylight window. Now one more window which is just provided at the lintel level or just above the windows or just above the doors, then those type of windows are called as fan light windows. Those types of windows are called as fan light windows. Okay, hope you understood this. Moving on to the next question. Okay, so the next question reads, the whole circle bearing of a line observed by a prismatic compass is 120 degrees. Its bearing rate on surveyor compass is. So you have to find out what is the bearing rate and the surveyor compass. So before that we'll discuss what is whole circle bearing and quadrangle bearing. So if you see the figure here, this is a whole circle bearing. So north, south, east, west are the directions indicated. So north, with respect to north, the angle is 0 degrees. With respect to east, the angle is 90 degrees. With respect to south, it is 180 degrees. With respect to west, it is 270 degrees. So a little glimpse of whole circle bearing, the concept followed behind this is, the angle what is measured with respect to whole circle bearing is always measured from the north. This you have to remember. It is always measured from the north, and angle, direction of angle is always clockwise only. It is always clockwise only, and the angle varies from 0 degree to 360 degrees. That is one complete rotation. And similarly, with respect to quadrangle bearing, or it is also called as reduced bearing. So directions indicated here, north, south, east, west. So So if suppose I need to measure what is the angle at this point. So angle measured here is with respect to the independent quadrants, right? Need not start exactly from north or from south. It may be anywhere. You have to select the nearer position, either it may be north or it may be south. So measured from north or south, whichever is nearer. Now if I draw the line here, now for this line, which is the nearer direction? It is north. Now if I draw the line here, which is the nearer direction? It is south. So you have to measure angle with respect to south. Now if I draw the line here, now which is for this line, what is the nearer direction? It is north. So I should measure the direction of this line with respect to north. Now for this line, south is nearer, so I have to measure the direction with respect to what? South. So it will be southeast. Now this line is falling in second quadrant, it will be northwest. So north and south are the prime directions. With respect to that, you have to take east or west wherever the line is placed. So it may be either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Now if I measure here, see here, southeast, then it is happening to be anti-clockwise. If I measure from north, it is happening to be again anti-clockwise. So if I measure from here, it is clockwise. So it may be clockwise or anti-clockwise, and it may vary from 0 degree to 90 degree. It is with respect to individual quadrants, right? So coming to the problem now. So he has told that the prismatic compass is 120 degrees. So from north, I'll measure it as 120 degrees because it is whole circle bearing. Now I know that when I measure 120 degrees, now if this is the problem, if I measure from here, 120 degrees falling somewhere here. This is 90 plus 30, so it is falling in the second, it is falling in the fourth quadrant now. So from here it is 120, right? So I need to convert that to what? Reduced bearing or bearing rate with respect to what? Surveyor compass. So what is the total angle from here to here? What is the total angle from here to here? It is 180. It is 180, right? So out of 180, if this is 120, what is this angle? It is 60 degrees. It is 60 degrees. Now I need to locate that with respect to what? Surveyor compass. So which is the nearer direction now? This is north and this is south. So line is falling in this quadrant. So which is a direction that is nearer to this line? It is south. So I'll write that south here first. Now what is the angle from south it is making? It is making an angle of 60 degree from south. So write that angle as 60 degrees. So it is falling, this line is directing at what side? It is directing downwards. So it is between what? It is between south and east. So south, it is making angle from south 60 degrees towards east. So answer is south 60 degree east. I hope you followed this. Moving on to the next question. So the next question reads, the maximum pressure to which a pipe is subjected to during its operation is known as. So maximum pressure is called as the working pressure. So working pressure is the maximum pressure that is the pipe is subjected during its operation. So this is the answer from the given option. So these are the first 20 questions that I have discussed with complete explanation, and also what are the possible questions that may arise related to that concepts in thorough I have discussed. I hope you have liked this video. If you do like this video, then please share, subscribe, hit that like button there, hit that subscribe button there, share with your friends. Thank you very much. Also, I like to tell one more thing. If you really like this video, please hit a like button so that I can get to know and get motivated, so that I can come up with more of these videos which will help you people to overcome the concepts and also give the competitive exam with full confidence. Please hit the like button, also share with your friends, subscribe, and do support my page. Thank you very much.